Welcome to Freaky Fauna Friday, where every Friday we take a little time and explore some of the freaks of nature from around the planet we cherish so deeply. So please, jump aboard and let's explore the wilds together.
Oh yeah, Freaky Fauna.
Welcome back to Freaky Fauna Friday.
We're back.
I've been the great and powerful Mr. E.
And I'm Jay.
I guess great and peaceful.
Peaceful.
I'm out of sorts. It's been a while.
Right, we get back in the swing of things. It's Friday.
And today's Freaky Fauna is going to be the Barbaroussa. Wouldn't that be funny to do it again?
I just did that with special guest, Peaceful Mr. T.
Mr. T. Thank you again, Mr. T. No, this week, once again, everybody, podcast magic. We record these actually out of order. So this is the last week of Salamander Week. Save the salamanders. Last day of Salamander Week.
Yeah.
Save the salamanders. Save the salamanders.
Save them.
We'll talk about the Kickstarter in the middle of this episode. But yeah, this week we're going to talk about the Hellbender.
Which is a
Salamander.
salamander.
Cryptobranchia.
Ambiostoma?
No, actually not an ambiostoma. Or
Dang it.
cryptobranchia. That's a mole salamander. Ambiostoma. Ambiostoma mexicanum is
Oxlotl.
yes. Okay. Ambiostoma tigris, depending on where you are, is the tiger salamander. But your local tiger salamander may be called like Ambiostoma montanus for the western and stuff like that.
It depends on where you live.
Yeah, there's a lot of subspecies of tigers because they occupy such a big
A lot of phenotypes.
Hellbenders. These guys, pretty much every one of their nicknames is bad. I don't know why the Hellbender gets so much hate in the early American days. They believe that like a lot of stuff with witches and they would attack and eat kids and stuff like that. They're not that big. They're the biggest salamander, which we'll talk about in the U.S. They're not kid eaters.
For now.
The giant Japanese salamander, what we talked about a while, maybe there's some evidence that maybe a long time ago that there were a couple individuals that were big enough to
Eat kids.
take a child, at least drown them.
Yeah.
If they held on and didn't let go. They don't really have the ability to like tear prey apart.
Right.
So they really can't just swallow it. It's not like a food.
It's more like a big pelican.
Yeah, essentially. But no, they're called such unflattering things like mud devils, devil dogs, ground puppies, and snot otters.
Snot otters is probably the best and the most offensive.
Or their actual name, the Hellbender.
Or Hellbender.
They don't have like
where's
a good
that
name.
Where's that name come from?
They were associated with hell.
But Bender? Like, they're bending the reality of...
Oh, no, he bent like girders from Futurama.
Yeah, okay, that Bender.
These are currently the largest documented aquatic salamander in the U.S. They grow up to about 30 inches long. On average, they're about 12 to 15 inches. They can be found pretty much in any slow-moving, clear-bottom creek. They need silt-free streams everywhere from northern New York to northern Alabama. There's also a subpopulation in southwest Missouri and northeast Arkansas called the Ozark Hellbender. So that's a separate subspecies we'll kind of talk about here in a minute. They do look pretty different. They've been separated for a while.
Okay.
There's not different enough to be its own species because if you put them together, they will breed.
Yeah.
But they do look a little different.
Okay.
The Hellbender is generally nocturnal, spending most of their days under rocks in the riverbeds, emerging only at night to hunt. Their diet is mostly crayfish, supplemented by small fish, other hellbenders, tadpoles, toads, and water snakes. Pretty much anything they catch, they can eat, but hellbenders are crayfish specialists.
Ooh, okay.
So that's kind of what they're eating. So when we go looking for the Trinity Alps giant salamander, David is going to help us identify crayfish beds.
All right.
Because when they start doing it, we're going to do it pretty much like a big hellbender survey, where you look for food sources first because that's where most likely den sites are going to be close by.
Right.
So when you find these big crayfish beds, they won't be like set up in the middle of them, but they're going to be nearby. So when we start looking, because there's a lot of water to cover, we're going to try to specialize and look for where it is. After covering about 30 to 60 feet and eating up to 4 to 5 crayfish a night on average, the salamander returns to its rocky home by the morning. Adults are extremely territorial, though, usually chasing off any daytime visitors. So really the only time you're seeing hellbenders move during the day is breeding season. The males will kind of stake up a good rock because they need a lot of water flow through their home for their eggs to oxygenate and stuff like that.
Okay.
they will tear each other apart. Like they will grab and rip arms off and like
For territory?
Yeah. So males will like just sit there and fight. That's about the only time you see a lot of daytime activity is when they're trying to stake out breeding territories. Only occasionally leaving the water, hellbenders make very little use of their actual lungs. So they actually do have lungs. They're not full lungless salamanders. Indeed, one of the individuals surviving right after the lungs surgically removed.
Oh.
So they had one in a zoo that had deep lung infections, and they were kind of like, well,
take the lungs out.
Well, this is about the only thing we could do to save the animal. And it worked.
Wow.
They get all their, like I said, they really don't leave the water. Nobody pick them up. They're highly endangered, we'll talk about. But as far as the biologists, when they do surveys, like they can take them out of the water for short periods of time and stuff like that for tagging and stuff.
They'll be fine.
Yeah. They have lungs. Like the giant Japanese salamander, if you watch videos of them, they'll crawl out on land to get over like obstacles.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Same with these guys.
Okay.
They don't ever have to leave the water.
Okay.
There's no reason. It's not like a reptile.
They can,
but
they
they
don't
get out sometimes.
Yeah, they can. They don't prefer it, but
yeah. The salamander absorbs most of its oxygen from the water through the folds on its skin on its sides that maximize surface area. Young hellbenders have gills externally, though, which they lose after about 18 months.
Oh, okay.
So they don't have the folds developed yet.
Right.
So they have to have actual external gills.
And then they're vestigial? Is that what they call that?
They just start receding.
Yeah.
So they're not vestigial because they're still using them.
Okay.
But once their skin folds develop enough where they can start using their actual skin to process oxygen,
then they go away.
They go away. They reabsorb them.
Gotcha.
Oxalots do the same thing if they ever morph. Most salamanders have external gills to start with. Yeah. Any questions so far?
No, not yet.
Protecting the hellbender salamander. Though some populations remain healthy, that's very rare. There are isolated pockets that are extremely healthy. The hellbender is listed as near threatened by the IUCN, which is whenever I talk about the red list on any of the shows, that's who runs it.
The IUCN.
Mm-hmm. So near threatened because they're wide range. Some areas are really endangered or extinct, and some areas are still very productive. So they kind of average it, and it's near threatened for the IUCN. But they close qualify for vulnerability status in most places, mainly due to habitat loss and degradation. So these guys don't handle silt very well because it blocks their ability to breathe. They're breathing through their skin, so if they get covered in mud,
they're choking to death.
They can't breathe. It's like your lungs being filled with silt.
It's like, you ever seen that guy that was in the Spider-Man suit, full body mask and everything, and he dove into that pool, these kids partying, and he come up at the top.
He can't breathe.
And he tried breathing, and he couldn't, and he's freaking out trying to pull his whole suit off, and he can't get it.
That's scary.
Not smart.
Now, the Ozark hellbender in particular is very impaired, mostly due to a dramatic population declines in the 1980s, 1990s. But in 2011, the Endangered Species Act actually qualified the Ozark hellbender as endangered species, and they got a lot more protection.
Okay.
But they were almost extinct. The Ozark population almost got wiped out to where there was a little bit of time where we thought they were gone.
Right, yeah.
But they're already a really cryptic species, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
So they went from being hard to find to not being found.
Yeah.
When I used to shock fish, I only ever found one.
The Ozark?
No, just a normal hellbender.
Okay.
And it was a whole day.
Okay.
But we shocked one and he came up and he was all mad. The Nature Conservancy is working with Purdue University and the Indiana Department of Natural Resources to conserve the special creature for all time. We have adopted a threshold approach to conservation through the outreach of local residents, land protection, cutting-edge lab research, and captive rearing of hellbenders, which almost all hellbenders that have been re-released into the wild from captive breeding populations come from Ohio.
Really?
Yep, the Wilds Park.
Oh, wow.
There's the hellbender lab there. Almost every one of them has been from there. There are a couple other places that are doing it.
But that's the main head honcho,
yeah, there's
basically.
a woman scientist there that figured out, it took forever to figure them out how to get them to breed. They're big species, and they're very shy in general.
Yeah.
So to have them breed in captivity was very hard. But I think their first year was...
She found the magic formula?
No, their first year they actually got them to breed. I think it was like 4 or 5 viable eggs, and then a couple hundred the next year, and then they started doing really good.
Yeah, now she's got it down to a system.
The biggest thing to help hellbenders is the dam removal acts. The barriers, like dams, once they're gone, hellbender populations can more easily find each other, leading to improved reproduction of overall species health. Because what happened is when we built all these dams, we separated the species out.
Right, blocking their river systems, basically.
And their gene pool diminishes till nothing. So
yeah.
whether you're actually causing their extinction or not, you did. Whether you're polluting the river or not doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's one thing we ran into a lot of problems with when I used to work is that people couldn't understand the water quality would be great and there'd be no fish or life and stuff like that. It's because we're in between 3 dams.
Yeah.
There's nothing here because everything, the gene pool, we're in a big pond, essentially, in the middle of this river.
The gene pool got very shallow.
Very fast.
Yeah.
All right. Here's some of your fun facts. Oh, before I do my fun facts, everybody, you've heard it all week. We're doing the Trinity's Alps Giant Salamander Expedition, what we believe is an endangered species of truly giant salamander. And if you can, the Kickstarter link will be below. If you feel like you can support it, we would greatly appreciate it. If not, please share it. Help us get it. There's like 29 days, or by the time this comes out, there's probably only 20 days left.
At least a share. If you can do anything, a
share.
share would help go a long way.
Yeah.
So
help save the salamanders.
Save the salamanders. We're rediscovering the salamander and putting him back on the endangered species list.
Yes, and there is laws that you've heard Monday that we'll talk about. Also, I think that's the $50 tiers where you get to Save the Salamanders T-shirt.
Ah, yes,
which is awesome. David Hardy did it.
Yeah, check out our website to check that out.
It's wicked. All right, fun facts. Hellbenders, the Hellbender is sometimes unfairly referred to as snot otters, devil dogs, mud cats. But don't call them mud puppies. That is a different species of salamander.
Oh.
I cannot tell you how many times people have caught either vice versa. A mud puppy and called it a hellbender.
Isn't a mud puppy a fish?
No, that's a mud skipper.
Mud skipper, you're right.
A mud puppy is a fully aquatic salamander that's not related to any of the other aquatic salamanders like the hellbender.
Okay.
They're their own thing.
Okay.
There's a couple species of mud puppy or mud dogs and stuff like that in the U.S., but the common mud puppy, which is they get fairly large, they get like a foot long.
Okay.
Indian Lake has them and stuff like that.
Really?
We catch them ice fishing.
Wow.
We never got to go up to Burt Lake, which I wanted to, but you get them a lot on Burt Lake.
Huh.
Because they live just on the bottom in like 150 feet of water.
Jeez. Okay.
But it's so clear down there that they need clean water. And sometimes you get big lake trout, they'll throw up a whole bunch of them.
Huh.
We've got to throw some live ones back from the belly of a lake trout.
That's pretty cool.
Because they're so cold down there, they don't digest very fast. So,
okay.
which sucks.
Yeah, it's
if
a
you're
slow,
a salamander.
painful death.
But
slowly dissolved, eaten to death.
Mm-hmm. So, but they're not. I've seen people catch baby hellbenders and call mud puppies and kill them, and then I've seen people catch mud puppies and be like, "I got a hellbender," and you're like, "No, but good try." One's a lot more common. We've seen hundreds of mud puppies before electrofishing.
Yeah.
Hellbenders have been around for roughly 150 million years.
It's a long time.
Yeah. Keep in mind, that's before T-Rex. That's before a lot of the dinosaurs that are famous.
It's before sharks?
No.
Before trees?
Maybe.
No way.
You have to look it up. I don't remember when trees came.
Me either.
But it may be before, because the start of the dinosaur reign, there was no trees. There was giant ferns.
Okay. That should count as trees, in my opinion. I mean, come on. A fern is close enough to a tree.
They're actually not.
But if it's big enough, it might as well be.
They're not the same thing.
I said close enough. It says might as well be. Might as well be the same thing. They're big, tall plants. That's a tree.
Technically, the first tree was 400 million years ago.
Okay, so.
But about 200 million years ago is when what we'd call, when you look at and call a tree, what you would, that's kind of when they started. With the woody growth and the rings.
Modern day tree, yeah.
Hellbenders are the current largest salamander in North America, and one of our goals is to break that.
Break that record. Yes, help us. Kickstarter. Links below.
So the scientific name of hellbender is cryptobronchius, which means hidden gill. Hellbenders also lose their gills around 1.5 years old. Their gills reabsorb into their body. As adults, they breathe through the blood vessels in their skin. Hellbenders do have lungs, but they rarely use them to breathe. Scientists believe they use their lungs for buoyancy instead, like a swim bladder in fish.
Makes sense.
Also, they believe that because they don't survive chemicals, like chemical impaction, very hard.
Right.
Like they don't, salamanders are first to leave for impacted systems. So they were trying to figure out that it doesn't really make sense. Like a bowfin, for example, has a primitive lung and gills, and they kind of switch back and forth for water conditions. Mm-hmm. That didn't make sense for hellbenders because they don't withstand bad water conditions very well. So buoyancy makes more sense. It has a flat eel-like tail. The hellbender rarely swims. Instead, it just kind of troubles along the bottom of the riverbed with its shortest legs, using its rough pads on its toes for traction. So if you ever look at little hellbender feet, which David did a really good job of catching, like the hellbender feet with it having the big nubs on the toes.
Right, yeah.
they're actually rough pads.
Oh, okay.
So they gain traction.
Little grippy feet.
Hellbenders are opportunistic cannibals. Adults will eat smaller adults as well as eggs and larvae, even from their own nest and those of other nests sometimes.
So depends how hungry you are.
They kind of forget sometimes.
Been there before.
Yeah. Contrary to popular belief from some fishermen, hellbenders are not poisonous. If you find any unfortunate hellbender on the end of your line, please cut. This says cut the line and let it go. You got to try to remove the hook. If you leave the hook in, it's going to die. If it's swallowed the hook, there's not a lot you can do. Just cut it and hope.
Right, yeah.
Remember, a hellbender is endangered in a lot of states, mostly endangered and threatened in others. I can't think of any off the top of my head where they're not protected besides maybe Tennessee, but Tennessee has other laws kind of protecting them.
Right, yeah. Did you know that in Tennessee, it is the number one most biodiverse place for amphibians, namely salamanders in the world?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
It's a cool fact.
That's a neat fact.
And this last little thing from the nature.org is under no circumstances should hellbenders be killed, trapped, or kept as pets. One more little PSA. The worst thing you can do for hellbenders is stack stones in rivers. I knock them down every time I see them. If you're on a kayak, so there's actually in the Mohican, there's hellbenders.
Oh, okay.
There's a few left, but they're still there. Stacking rocks is one of the worst things you can do for them.
What's it do?
They dig out underneath the big rocks to make their nest, and that stacked rock will actually collapse and kill them.
Oh, okay.
So not only is it killing them, but it's also killing the next generation.
Right, yeah.
So knock them over. Rock stacks, they're fun to do. Build them if you want. Knock them over when you're done. It's not like a sandcastle where nature will just take it away.
PSA.
The PSA, because that is one of the worst things. And I get it, most of it's done by kids and stuff, and the kids don't know what they're doing and stuff like that. It just happens.
Kids being kids,
But if you're kayaking the river, as long as there's not a kid actively building it,
yeah, and just
knock it over.
You're advocating for just some kids on vacation this summer at the Mohican River, having a good time in the river. Mom, Dad, look what I'm building. That's this nice rock stack, and just Justin in the kayak comes swimming by.
I've not in front of kids. I have knocked a lot of over kayaking. I've gotten out of my kayak to knock them over.
Right, and then you just walk right back to your kayak, jump back in, and float down the river, and the kids are vacation ruined.
Well, yeah, they deserved it. Attacking the hellbenders. See, they're on vacation. The hellbenders live there.
Right, true. Someone's got to save the salamanders.
Save the salamanders.
Someone's got to do it. Why not us? Save the salamanders. You just got to keep repeating it.
Save the salamanders. Well, I have been the great and peaceful mystery.
And I've been Jay.
We'll catch you next week with more peaceful, loving nature facts. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Freaky Fauna Friday. If you want to help the podcast grow, remember to share and give it a 5-star review.